Well, we've wrapped up week one. Hello. And now we're beginning the second week of this course. You have sent me some really good comments and remarks in your first discussion board. I was happy to read all of those and respond to them. You're doing a great job. I have not yet read or graded the short papers. I'll do that this evening and tomorrow. Now we're getting ready to move away from some of the very, very basic things that we've done this first week and move more into the details of the differences between the state and federal courts. So Learning Module 2 has to do with just that, comparing state courts with federal courts. How do they operate? Where do they sit? How are they organized? How do we get the judges in a state court versus how we obtain judges in federal court, which is what we have been discussing for the past week. Some of you thought that federal judges ought to be elected. Some of you were happy with the present system of appointments. As you will learn as you go into Learning Module 2 and you explore your own state's method of selection of judges, you'll see that many states agree with those of you who think elections are better, and they actually do elect judges. Many other states, like Virginia, where I'm from, appoint judges in much the same way that the federal judges are appointed. The governor does it after qualified nominees are presented to him or her. I say her optimistically, Virginia's never actually had a woman governor. Maybe. The federal judges are selected by a process that we've been discussing for the past week. We'll stay in that a little bit in this second module, but mostly you're going to be concentrating on state court systems, which will be a little bit different for all of us. You have the opportunity, in fact the obligation, to explore the state court system in the state where you live. And as we get into the discussion board, obviously you're going to be explaining your state court system, how it's arranged, and some of the problems you see that it might have, especially with issues of venue. Those of you who live in very large states like Texas and California, you can and will be describing issues of venue, and you'll learn what that means in this module. In very different terms than those of you who live in less populous and geographically smaller states, where the issue of venue is a problem, but it's a problem for very different reasons. I won't get into that right now because I want you to research it yourselves and study it. But know a few things as we go into this second week. One is that you have another short paper, and this short paper is the place where you're going to be describing to me the state court system in your own home state, and how that court system functions, and how it differs from the federal system, and also comparing state judges and federal judges. And you're going to be asked a question that's not easy to answer, and that is whether you think state judges or federal judges have the more difficult job. That is very much like saying, do you think oranges are better than telephone poles? I mean, the state judges and federal judges in many ways serve a very similar function, but in other ways they are very, very different, and you will see that as you research their various roles and the limits to what they may and may not do in those roles. The other thing that is that I need to remind you about in week 2 is that week 2 is a stepping stone to an interview that you're going to be doing with a local court personnel in one of the state courts that's near you somewhere. Near you only for matters of convenience, obviously. If you want to travel a long distance to interview somebody, you certainly may do that. But the requirement is just that you find somebody who works in a court near you, a clerk or a bailiff or a deputy clerk, or I don't know what the various titles might be in the local courts where you live, but you will easily find lots of people who work in those courts. They're very busy. Most of them are extremely competent and know their jobs very well. Because they're so busy, I would suggest that you jump on this requirement right away. And this week's requirement is that you get an interview consent form signed by some local court personnel that you will then interview. You don't have to interview them this week, but you do need to get all your ducks in a row so that you're ready to do the interview when the time comes. Now, you can go ahead and do it this week if it's convenient for you and the person you find, but that interview actually won't be due for another week or so. Anyway, please always read the material that the learning module provides for you. It will help you immensely. I want to give you a little warning, though. When you are talking about comparing state and federal judges, you do have a couple of articles to read in the materials, and they give you a picture, a kind of side-by-side comparison of federal courts and state courts. That picture is very sketchy and it's very incomplete. It's not untrue, it's just not full enough to give you a real picture of how state and federal courts work and how they differ from each other. So as you go into your research and reading, if you have questions, and I fully expect that you will, please ask me either in the general discussion board or directly by email. I'm very happy to answer your questions. I will get your emails immediately. They come, they get fed automatically onto my phone. So they little ping comes in whenever you send me an email. So I'll, unless I'm driving or otherwise can't answer the email, I'll usually answer you right away. In fact, I am going to be driving this week on Wednesday and Thursday, and probably either Saturday or Sunday. I will be in the car for a good part of those days, but that doesn't mean that I'll be offline. I won't be. I will check in before I get in the car and after I get out of it in the evening. So there may be a few hours in the midst of the day or middle of the day when I won't be able to respond to you, or I won't be checking into the class, but before and after that I will be. So anytime you have a question, please ask me. I'm very, very happy to do what I can to answer you or to point you in a direction where you can find the answer if I don't have it for you. Now, I've gone over my limit, 7.5 minutes. I'm going to shut up. I'll post this on the announcement board, and I wish you the best of luck in the second week, and thanks again for all your very good discussion board posts this week. Bye.